It is March 5th, 2024, 7 o'clock. This is Heart Centered Marketing. My name is Joey Ragona, and you are who you are. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being here live. Thank you for being here on the replay, by the way. And let me know if you are live or on the replay with a hashtag live or a hashtag replay. We have an epic show for you. When don't we have an epic show? But today I've got one of my favorite humans in the world because she's one of the most positive people I've ever met in my life. Carol-Anne Schneider is here. Carol-Anne, how are you doing
That
today?
is so sweet of you. I'm good. I'm on your show. Like what could be better? Instead of watching you on a Tuesday night, here I am. I get to talk to you live. This is awesome.
100%. I mean, yeah, I'm so honored to have you here because, like I said, you are truly one of the most positive people I know. And anytime, if you're ever down on anything, whatever it is, reach out to Carol and she'll boost you right up in a second. You've always got this great positive spin on everything, and that's what I love about you. And that's what I want to talk about tonight because I mean, we've heard about manifesting and the secret and bringing things into your life and all this kind of stuff. But, you have mastered the art of doing this and not in a gimmicky way and all these other things. And I want you to, for people who have not really, who don't know who you are, can you share a short little summary of like how you got here and why it's so important and why this is happening for you? Like it's just super incredible of the human that you are. So I'm going to leave it to you and share with everyone the
Oh my
incredible Carol-Anne
goodness,
Schneider.
the elevator pitch. So I've always been a goal junkie. I like absolutely love setting goals. When I was little, my mother said, "You just never give up. You always push for more." And I am heart centered, like yourself. So for me, being able to help people and elevate them and, let them empower themselves to give themselves permission to live their best life is really what my jam is. Like, I just love that. I love seeing people succeed.
Yeah. And you, I mean, we don't have to get into the whole story about everything, but, your life story is already incredible. And the person that you've become because of the life story, I think people need to hear a little bit of that. Like you've had a lot of not so good
I've,
stuff happen in your life.
yep,
And the
yep.
person you are today, if any, so anyway, I'm just going to leave it to you. I don't want to spoil and anything. Just you say the stories, let everybody know.
There's so many stories. I mean, I
What,
didn't
like, just
realize.
basically how did you get here? Like, what was the
Okay,
stories
so
about? Yeah.
how did I get it? So I created my Moonshot system after my dad died. And I couldn't get myself going again. My dad was my person, and he'd been through all the other loss that we had encountered as a family. And there's a lot of them. So
How
when I
many of them?
started
Can you
doing,
mention that number?
there was like 38.
Yeah. Okay.
When I did the moonshot, there was 38. I've lost to other people since then, but that was the number at that time. And a lot of it wasn't like people getting to 80 or 90. There was a lot of tragic young loss in our family.
Hmm.
Um, and so what I didn't realize is that with the loss came transformation of self and trying to, cope and how do you do this and where do you go from here? And so I think, it was my parents really that instilled the where there's life, there's hope. And when I looked at all of the loss and these wonderful human beings that I was so blessed to know and to have love me unconditionally, like I owed it to them to try to live double, to do my very best because they didn't get this opportunity or this day or this moment here with you. So, I'm I'm failing them by not being my best self.
Incredible. Just
And
just that
that's just
alone.
kind of how I feel. And you don't always like in grief, you don't see the gifts at the time. Like obviously, right? You're plugging through the trenches, you're trying to get up in the morning and then one day it just kind of hit me. Like I just started to see it, like in the loss of my dad. Like he left. The last 3 years of his life were magnificent. He showed us how to live in the moment every day.
Mm-hmm.
And that was something that, like, he really did live his best life in his last 3 years of life,
Mm-hmm.
which is kind of crazy. But he was faced with a cancer
Mm-hmm.
diagnosis and a limited amount of time, and he's like, I'm not going to waste this. And
Right.
I try to remind myself of that every day.
Yeah, because I
Don't
mean that's
waste
kind of
it.
where you and I like our stories match there because my dad passed at 60, and I always tell the story of learning from him as an entrepreneur all my life, and stories that or stuff that I could never really teach in a book about entrepreneurship and all the hardships and all the stuff that he did, and then I was down that same rabbit hole, that route or the route going like working as a workaholic and all that, and I honor that, and I learned so much from that. But then when cancer said to him at 57, "You've only got 3 years left," that was a big one, And I'm like, okay. And then he passes at 60, and then, like you said, in the gift wasn't there. I'm like, what's going on here? And it took me about 5 years after that when I realized I was going down that same route. I was like workaholic. I'm doing this for my family. Da da da. And I'm like, what am I doing here? Like I'm doing the exact same thing my dad did. So I took away that part of it, like the hard work workaholic thing, and said, how do I just build a life with the business that's around me, not my life around the business? And that's unfortunately that's what my dad did, and I see that entrepreneurs do that every day, and that's my purpose. Like I realized that's my purpose. My dad passed for me to find the purpose. I'm getting choked up as I say this, but
I
that's
know.
what it's all
Not
about,
it.
right? Is like, so that was the gift. Sorry to cut you off. I just had
Yeah.
to
I
interject it
mean,
because it was important.
there's so many gifts. Like, yeah, my sister died when she was 36,
Mm-hmm.
and she was a mother with three kids. And admittedly, prior to her dying, I was terribly afraid of death.
Mm-hmm.
I was just terrified of it. And when she died, I didn't realize it at the time, but she took that fear away from me, and she gave me a new hope and a new, perspective that, hey, one day I'm going to see her again. And she's always going to be there for me and look after
Right.
me. And it wasn't so scary. I miss her every single day, every minute of the day. I yell at her sometimes. I'm like, you left me here with all this stuff. Like, are you crazy? I yell at them all. And I do sometimes refer to my angels as my dead people. Just when I'm in a bad mood with them. But it's funny. I know there's an army of them and they're always here.
Yeah.
Um, but so many things that you don't, like, I didn't realize were there. Like the gifts and the legacy of what they left behind is just, that's the crazy part. That's the
Yeah.
part that makes you want to do better in the world.
Yes. Let's talk about
Not
that.
just
Let's
for
talk
you,
about
but for
doing better.
them.
Yo, for sure. 100%. And that's what like I love about you because, all the stuff, I mean, yeah, some of your the stuff that's gone on in your life is like really it would just break someone. Like only a couple of them would break somebody down, and you've been through all of this, and you've been so successful at everything that you do, and now you've got this moonshot thing that you've been doing for how many years now? You've been doing the moonshot.
Well, the system, like I've always done the goal pieces, but I hadn't really done them in the order that the moonshot map is until 2019 when I lost my dad.
Okay, and since then you've been using it even with other people, showing them how to
Oh, I
do it.
have been using. I've been using it with other people. I've been using it myself, and I was using it before, and I didn't realize that there was a system, right? Because I was like, yeah, we want that. Let's make that happen, and not recognizing that there's actually an unpacking of it to make it, to help manifest it, to help bring it in.
So what are we talking about moonshots? Like what is it?
So for me, well, my one big moonshot is I am going to author my book, Good Grief. and it is going to be fabulous. And I already know that. And it's going to be a legacy to all of my people, my angels, and it's going to be my own memoir piece. That's my moonshot. That's my
That's your
big
moonshot.
desire.
Okay, so a moonshot is
That
like a huge goal.
well, it doesn't have to be huge. It
Okay,
has to be it has to be something that you feel within your soul is something that you have to do, that you're
got
driven
it.
to do.
Okay,
Right? It has to be a desire that you really, really want. Like it could be to lose 20 pounds, but I
right.
love chocolate. So that's not my moonshot of this month, right? So I've been trying to lose the same 20 pounds for a long time, but I do love chocolate. So no, it has to be something that you give yourself permission to do. I think anyway. And it's not always something that hasn't been done before.
Mm-hmm.
It just hasn't been done the way that you're going to do it now. Your
Got it.
spin on it, right? Your soul driven desire or soul purpose, if you want to call it that, that you're going to put out into the world that's going to really make an impact for you. And then, of course, there's a whole ripple effect to it. And that's what I discovered is that when you follow your own dream or path or mission, if you want to call it that, other people are also there for the ride, even if you don't expect them to be. And the spin-off of the good that you do, or I guess the challenges that you meet along your journey, impact other people and the way that they then show up in the world. So it's a ripple effect.
Mm-hmm. And so you've been helping others do this to implement the moonshot. And I know,
Oh,
by the way, if you're an Academy member watching this, we have Carol-Anne coming in on a special VIP, and she'll
yay.
bring her moonshot and give you all kinds of really, really cool stuff. Not that we're going to hold anything really back from tonight, but this is kind of the precursor of it. And we can only do so much on a live stream like this without actually having people here and interjecting, because that's a huge part of what you do. And helping them get through some of their blocks or maybe their mindset challenges, right?
Yeah, I think mindset is the number one key piece. And um, I mean, there's a lot of people that are really good at helping everybody else. I'm one of those people too. And then when it comes to my own mindset, it's like, why is that block there? Why can't I do for myself what I can do for others? And it's that standing up and giving yourself permission to shine.
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes we're afraid, because we really are, I believe we're all really powerful human beings. And sometimes we're afraid of what that looks like if we actually go play full out.
Yeah.
I think that's more the fear of succeeding over the fear of failing.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And if I had to choose one, it would be that. And even though I don't really consciously think that. And anything that when I look at it, I'm like, what am I afraid of? And I'm not afraid of failing. Definitely not afraid of failing. So it's got to be I'm afraid of the success in some way,
Yeah,
shape, or form, right? That's the only thing
yeah.
holding me back. And so this is where you're coming in to help us. So can you give us some insight on like how you would deal with that? So I'm coming in and saying, yeah, I don't know, I'm afraid of success, or what's going to happen.
Okay, okay. So I think part of it is, you have to dig into why is that there? Why,
Mm,
why is that irrational fear of success there, right? You're an awesome person. You do good in the world. You know that you impact other people. You have a desire to do everything from a heart-based place,
hmm.
which is so unusual for a coach, by the way, right? Like you
Thank you.
are you are outside of the box thinker. So why would you be afraid to succeed? Well, maybe there's one little nugget somewhere in that subconscious that you don't even realize is there.
Hmm.
I can tell you a funny story, and it is funny. My mother hated me in red because whenever I would wear red, I would be like right out there. And yet, every time I wear red, people say, "Oh, wow, that color is so awesome on you." But my mom was afraid of me being seen. And
Ah.
so maybe that's part of why I'm afraid to be seen sometimes. I
Mm.
mean, we could dissect it till the cows come home.
Right.
The trick is, how do you get over that fear to just show up and do what you were meant to do with this
Mm-hmm.
big, beautiful life of yours?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I mean, even what you're saying now, and if someone diagnosed me and said, "Look, your fear of success is because and they just said this, and this is not what I'm saying. You're saying, but this is where anybody listening to this is getting to the depth of what you're saying, and so anyway, like at the top level, somebody said, "Joey, you're afraid of showing up in the world of who you are, whatever it is." And I'd say, no, that's not true at all. Because you know me, like you actually texted me and said, you inspired me to pick up my phone and just start recording stuff, right? Like, I don't care. Like, I just show up. Like, that's not what it is. But what we're talking about is like, yeah, well, maybe there's another underlying subconscious thing that is the showing up piece. So you're not looking at the surface level of actually turning on your camera and going on Facebook Live and stuff. That's not what we're talking about. Is that right? Am I on the right track there?
Yeah, it's that niggly something that you're holding on to for whatever reason, and you haven't been able to unpack it. And
Love
and
that.
maybe and maybe you need to give yourself permission. And I think that's the piece. I think that really is the hardest thing for anybody to do, is to give themselves permission to be 100% who they are and who they're meant to be and to shine
So
with their gifts.
if someone is listening right now, by the way, if you are listening and watching right now, or even on the replay, by the way, drop a comment or question in the chat, please, because this is an open conversation for all of us. Carol-Anne's here; she can answer your questions, maybe guide you in the right direction as well. But if someone was listening to you and here's my question: is the permission and belief equal, or is one more than the other? And is belief part of this? That's like three
Well, I
questions in
think
one.
belief, I think belief is part of it. And I think that they're different, but they're kind of the same, which I know doesn't make any sense. But here's an example. So
Yeah.
when I'm working with somebody and we're working on their big, scary moonshot goals, when I say, I believe you can do it, or why not you, then that is when they're like, oh, somebody else believes this is possible for me. So how can I believe that it's possible for me?
Right. Right.
And that's where the permission piece comes in, I think, because I mean, we're just human. We often look to the outside world for permission to, go from A to B to C to D. It's what we've been programmed and learned to do as kids, right? Even
Yeah.
even when you think about your own upbringing, right? Your mother would say, "No, you can't have that chocolate until you eat
Right.
your whatever broccoli," right?
Yeah.
So that was like, "Oh, I need her permission." I mean, and even like for me, like I admit that when I lost my mom, that was a huge, thing for me. Like, oh my gosh, I don't need her permission anymore. Not that
Mm.
she, not that I didn't just do my own thing, because I was always a rebel. My mother would have told you that I gave her all the gray that she has, right? That she had. But I recognize that, oh wow, I'm not checking in with her anymore to say, hey, mom, I don't know, we're gonna go to Disney and we're gonna go from this day to this day, and what do you think about that? Or I'm going to, sell this car and get another car. Like, we all have sounding boards in our life. And in my case, my mom was a big factor in that.
Right.
And and she was always honest with what she thought was right, but not always as forthcoming with the permission piece. Like, you knew if she didn't want you to do it, even if she said do what you like.
Got it.
My
Got it.
dad, on the other hand, was my cheerleader. He was like, go for it. You could do anything. Like, you are all of these things. My little cousin Julie, that I lost to cystic fibrosis, like, I mean, and this comes back to moonshot or desire. Like, I was terrible at getting up early. And um, every Saturday morning, I would wake up at 5:30 a.m. without an alarm to call Julie because she lived in Scotland. And that was my time to connect with her. And we would talk for hours, and here, you talk about, being good in the world. Julie was an angel, and she had cystic fibrosis. She knew she was dying every day of her life,
Mm-hmm.
and yet she would pick me up on the call instead of me picking her up on the call. And
Incredible.
I would say to her, "Oh, I'm gonna, do this or do that," and she would say, "Well, why not you? Like, of course you can do that." So, she was a cheerleader. She taught me how to cheer people on. And then when I looked at her situation and I thought, oh my gosh, like, look at her life and where she's at. Yet she still has heart and soul and desire to make my life better.
That's so incredibly touching. Wow.
you,
What
you
is
know
it
and
that
I'm the girl. Like, I never would, like, I would say it was a joke in my house. I'm like, I'm gonna wake up naturally, like, don't set the alarms. And we had a semi-detached house once, and the neighbors like sent us a note one day and said, can you please not make your alarm so loud, because nothing would wake me up but that desire to talk to that little angel every
yeah.
Saturday morning was enough to get me out of bed and on the phone and talk for hours. And
Wow.
that whole elevating each other, believing in each other,
Well,
giving
Lorna's
each other permission.
yeah, and Lorna's saying that she likes the idea of borrowing someone else's belief in ourselves until we have the belief in ourselves and maybe longer. So that's a big one. And
Yeah.
Lorna also says, I used to do the opposite of what my mother said I was supposed to do. I was like Lorna, I was a rebel and opposite. you know, I don't know how she lived through my growing up years sometimes. It's so true.
Yeah,
I,
I can relate to that. I remember when I became a mother myself, and something went on with the kids, and my mother said, "See, this is payback. This is payback for all those times that, I said be home at 10 and you came home at 10:15, and I said don't go there and you went there." Like, I was a rebel. I just wasn't, I was not an easy teenager. And I used to say to her, "No, you can't tell them what I did," because that would be horrible. You know,
yeah,
they they would do it.
yeah. I don't know how many of us were actually really good teenagers. We all had to go through some sort of phase. That's an anomaly. It's very rare that you would get a really really good teenager. Good to see you here, Collie. Glad that you made it. Sorry about the Facebook hack. Are you sure maybe it was hacked, Nick? Because I know Facebook had a huge down time, and we all thought we were hacked. At least I did. It's like, what's going on? So maybe you're not
Oh,
hacked. You just have to log back into Facebook. Anyway,
yeah,
good to see you.
I changed my passwords today on Facebook. We'll see how long that lasts. That's what I need help manifesting with. How do I remember my passwords?
It's called LastPass. Just go to
Is it?
LastPass.
I have that. I
That's
have
it.
that.
That's all you need.
I have that.
So give us some
I have.
practical stuff that we could do here if you can help us out on what it is that we need to do to bring things into our lives. Anything that you can help us out with?
So I feel like, we have to celebrate our wins and remember all of the wonderful things we've already done. Because I know there's a lot of people talk about shadow work, and we all do it, and I'm sure it's important, but man, we can't change the past. So why are we spending so much time beating ourselves up on all of that stuff? That's my theory and
So this
philosophy
is
on
what so
that.
you called it what shadow work?
Shadow work.
Okay. I've never
Yeah,
heard that
yeah,
term before, but I totally get what you're saying because I'm like with you. I'm with you all the way. It's like the past is the past, and sometimes
yeah,
for me, I see a lot of people living in one of two areas. One is regretting the past, and two fearing the future. In one of those two areas, that's it. Fear of the future, and they're never living in the present moment and learning from the past, but they're stuck in the past. So the past is there to help us grow. The past is there to like, okay, don't forget stuff. You can remember it, but don't dwell there. Don't sit there
yeah.
because
And I think where we where we fail ourselves is when we don't recognize all of the wonderful things we have done in the past,
Right.
like
Right.
those milestones or those moonshots that you didn't even know was a moonshot, like,
Right.
getting married or buying a first house or becoming an entrepreneur. Like that journey for you, giving up that business and making that leap of faith to your new business
Yeah.
must have been an incredibly challenging time, but at the same time so rewarding,
Yeah.
like so freeing, right? And it took steps and it took plans and it took, things to fall into place or for you to be aligned with that new vision in order for that to work. So taking the lessons from the past, but really focusing on the wins. Like, where did you win? Well, I know where I've won. Like, for me, a win was my dad was given a few months to live, and he lived for 3 years. And every day we danced in this living room that's behind me. And, I can say, Alexa, play the golden oldies, and she'll just, his song list is still there. The, Alexa, stop.
I was waiting for it. I was waiting for the songs to
Yeah,
come
but
up.
well, and probably it would be Sweet Caroline because
Yeah.
we danced to that many times. But like I remember those good things and sure, there was a lot of really bad things.
Sure.
But if we stay there, then we're stuck and we're
Yeah.
miserable and we're sad or we're angry at ourselves or we feel like we failed and we don't take the lesson of who we became as a person because of that experience.
Yeah, and I don't know if you saw. I think I shared it on in the group. It was recent. It was like a couple days ago, where I saw a YouTube video, and it's with this teacher doing math. Did you see that video?
I might have seen that one.
So anyway, real quickly, he's doing like the times tables, right? He does 9 of them, and he does them all right, and then the last one he gets it wrong. He does it wrong, and then everybody laughs at him, right? And one guy goes, "Look, that you're a hero. Like you couldn't even get the last one right, or whatever it was." And he says, "You see what happened here? Like I got 9 of them right, but the only one you focused on was the last one that I got wrong." And this relates to what you're saying here: is the small wins, the wins all along the way, or even if they're big wins, we always focus on, well, that didn't work out. That was a failure. This was like, and we're
Yeah.
always focused on those bad stuff, the failures. And I'm like, okay, so when I started growing the business, the what I always do is I looked at, looking back at the last 90 days, what worked, what didn't work. So it's not like I'm ignoring the bad stuff or the failures. I'm identifying them, but I'm not in regret of them, saying, okay, that didn't work, so I'm not going to do that anymore, and I'm going to remove that and add something new. But a lot of people get stuck in that.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
oh, that didn't work. So, and they
Yeah.
don't move forward or they don't add anything to their lives.
Yeah, and it's I think reflection and being able to identify your zones of genius versus your zones of not so genius. I think that's a really good like life motto to live by. Like, hey, this worked, that didn't work. Let's not do that again. Let's go for, and it can be really simple. Like I could look at here's one of my moonshots. My son had a big surgery. The doctor said he would be in and out of hospital. He would be all like maybe a week in hospital and a 3 month recovery at home, and then he'd be back at school. And that was plan A. And we ended up on plan F. And that meant like, months and months in sick kids hospital with a combination of visits back and forth between Blurview Children's Rehab Hospital where he stayed and my husband and I are both entrepreneurs and we make commission only, pay for service. If we're not working, and we weren't at the time, we were with him every day, then we weren't bringing in any income. And so we could look at that and we could say, yeah, that was really shitty planning on our part, because it was. We didn't plan on plan F. We planned on plan A. And then, during a time where our son was really in a lot of pain and he
Hmm.
was learning how to walk again, and honestly, you just need to spend 5 minutes, not even 1 minute, at any one of those hospitals, and you're so grateful that you're there for a temporary thing and that what's going on in your life is fixable compared to all of the poor souls that it's not fixable for.
Right.
And so, in a moment, we said, hey, he was getting ready to apply for school. And we said, sure, apply everywhere because we wanted him to feel better that day. We didn't plan on him getting over $1 million worth of scholarship offers from schools worldwide.
Incredible.
And we were like, oh my gosh, this is really happening. He's really going to go to school. But we thought, he's not well enough to go to school. He still needs one more surgery. We don't even know when that's going to be. And this is the plan F part, right? Because they've done all the other things. And we said, sure, sure, we'll say yes to one of them. But by then, the desire was deep because we had witnessed so much in the last, I think it was a 15-month journey from first surgery to final surgery. We had witnessed so much and gone through so much as a family that that kid was going to go to whatever school he wanted. And my husband and I were going to make sure that he got where he wanted to go. Now, the one he picked had the highest scholarship offer for an international student, but it was the lowest scholarship offer of all the other schools, and it was the highest tuition. He had free rides that came in, but that's the one he wanted. So we were like, okay, now here's the moonshot part of it, and this is, and I've never been able to do this again in this short period of time, but his surgery was April. In order for him to be able to go to the School of Art Institute in Chicago, which was his dream, we had to prove to the US government and to the school, in order to get the student green card by August the 1st, so April, May, June, July, August the 1st, that we had 250,000 US dollars in our bank account. That couldn't be equity in our house, that couldn't be anything. So, of course, I'm like, I'm in real estate. I'm just going to go to my favorite mortgage broker and we're just going to pull the equity out of the house and we're going to do this. And of course, they're looking at the last 15 months of our life and they're going, yeah, we don't think so. Like, there's no income here. It was probably my worst real estate year and ever. And I'd been doing it at that point, I think, for 20, 30 years. So
Yeah, yeah.
it was really crappy timing. And I'm like, okay, so we'll just sell the house because that's how committed we were for his moonshot goal to get there. And he's like, you can't do that. That's our house. I'll just go to the local college. Now, what he didn't know is we didn't even have enough money to send him to the local college
Wow.
we had paid for private education for him up to grade 8, and then he
Okay.
went into the public school system at that point. But we hadn't really, like, we'd never done the RESP. It was poor planning. Like, hey, you want to go back and look at where did you fail? We failed on the planning piece of putting the money aside for his education. We showed them the money. We got the student green card. And it was almost like the universe and the moonshot magic was just the ripple effect of the people that helped us on that quest was unbelievable. Like, somebody would say, oh, you're selling that house down the road? I have a friend that wants to buy it. Like, all these people just came out of nowhere. And my desire to take action to create that money goal that was required, which really was the school goal, was so focused
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
that that's how it worked. It wasn't like money fell out of the sky, although I feel like customers did during
Right.
that time period. Um, but there was there was dedicated, committed action and focus to the goal.
Yeah, see, I
And
want everybody
so,
to rewind what you just said because that is so huge. It wasn't that, where you, when I was first learning about manifesting and all that, it was like, okay, tomorrow, Ferrari, right? And then you wake up, that didn't work. This manifesting doesn't work, right? What you just said was like, it sounds to me that you had a lot of failures along the way to get that money. The,
oh my
you know,
gosh.
getting the equity out, that didn't work. Selling whatever it was. But it's the internal desire and focus that drove you forward that eventually all of the things matched up to bring you that manifestation of that money, correct?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
And
that's huge, Caroline.
I
Huge.
mean that was for the first year. We had 4 years to go. So, it was like there was that. And yeah, Brian and I, my husband Brian and I, we ate a lot of craft dinner. But we also like, I guess that the spin-off or the ripple effect or all of that, or how I like to live my life is okay. I used a monetary example there
Yeah.
because that was something we needed to prove to the government to get the green card. But really, I live my life and I set my goals based on experiences. So for me, what was more important was being, and I'm going to get choked up now. For me, what was more important was to let Thomas have this dream,
Mm.
and he already, like, he is an incredible artist, and we already had that too. Like, we had our friends going, "You're sending your son to art school? Like, are you crazy? Like, why don't you send him to business school, or why don't you send him?" And we're like, "But he's an artist and he wants to go there, and it's one of the best art schools in all of North America." And only very few people get picked to go there, and they picked him, and he's going to thrive. Now, when we the 4 years that followed that were incredible. We all grew so much in ways that I didn't even imagine was possible. Our relationships became better. We became better parents, I feel. He became this young adult that, learned how to do his own laundry and cook for himself and thrift shop because he didn't want to, waste his pocket money on fancy jeans. He would go for the second. Like, we all became different human beings.
Mm-hmm.
And the experience of it all was really the gift of it
Mm-hmm.
all. So the money was secondary to who we became.
But the experience was tied into his school, correct?
Oh,
Like he was going to
totally.
get
Like, we
that,
got to we got to
which,
go to Chicago, I don't know how many times, and he flew back and forth. I mean, even like, so my dad got to go to my son's graduation. He
wow,
got to see his grandson accept his diploma of honors in BA for art, and he
so
got
cool.
to my dad got to wear my dad wore his kilt, and
Oh,
he had his best jacket on, and there is no man that was prouder than he was that day.
yeah.
And we were all in tears, like, we were all like, because it wasn't just Thomas's dream, it became our dream. Like, the moonshot trickle of that. Like, we all wanted this to happen.
Yeah, I think that what you're hitting on here is a lot of like when we relate it back to for anybody listening to grow their business and their like I think you're hitting on a lot of things where it has to be that internal desire, the focus on one thing, and the experience of whatever that's going to bring them. So yeah, if you want to grow your business to 100K or $1 million or whatever that is, that's not enough. Like it's not like why do you want that? Am I right? Like why do you
Yeah,
want the
the
million?
desire has to be really strong.
Right.
And that's the part that I think, if we go back to the belief permission piece, it's okay to want what you want.
Right.
And that's where I think we get the hiccup
Right.
within our own self and our mindset.
Right.
that stops us from being able to do that. So, but you're right, throwing out a number means nothing. Like, 250K, okay, sure. It's not like I'd never made good money in my business. I'm very blessed with a wonderful business, but I'd never made it that quickly. The pressure to create it wasn't always there, but the desire was so deep that there, this wasn't a failing project. Like
Yeah, and see, this is where
there
it
was
goes
no
back.
room for it to fail.
Yeah, see, like I hope again everybody's listening to the words that you're saying. Like, just read between the lines here, because even when I was blessed to work a little bit with John Assaraf from The Secret, and all that manifestation stuff, and one of the lines, and it's so famous that he says it, everybody knows it, where is like, "Are you interested in growing your business, or are you committed to growing the business?" And there's a huge difference, and I see a lot of people out there who are just interested. Oh, it'd be really cool to have a business. It'd be really cool to make 100K. It'd be really cool to have 10K a month. It'd be really cool. That's not a commitment at all. And this is what you're talking about. Is like, no, there's a commitment to have him go to that school, to experience what he wants, to go to the place where he wants to go, so we can celebrate his wins and all these other things, and all these other things begin to fall into place. Because it sounds to me like there was the desire, but not the how. It's
There
like, I
was
don't,
no how.
right.
There
Like, I
was
don't know how
no
I'm going to
how.
do this.
But
Right.
that's where I think, when I think about my mom and I think like where there's life, there's hope, right?
Right.
There's You don't always have to know the way. And I think that's the part too, like especially for all these big planners, they have to know exactly what comes next.
Right.
I'm
Right.
not that organized.
Yeah, same
I'm
here.
open. I'm open for the universe to, and it does. Like it, like look back, take that little reflection walk, and there will be things where you just and I think that's the desire piece too. Like, make sure you ask for what you want, and make sure it's really what you want because it's showing up if you're calling it in. You know,
Yeah.
like that for me, like I've done that before. And it's like, oh, why did I think that? And that's the thing too, is that I think when you are in that space of, manifesting and really committed to your desire and your goal and what you want, sometimes it comes really quickly.
Hmm.
And that just freaks you right out because it's
Hmm.
like, oh, wow, is there really that much power in my actions and my thoughts and my desires that I can actually make this happen?
And I want to point out what you just said there again to everybody listening, because it's there's one word that you've been saying throughout this entire thing, and that is the word action. So if you're listening to this, you're not getting where you want to go. Action is like the most one of the most important things, if not the most, because belief is there, great, fantastic. Permission is great, but unless you take action, nothing's going to happen, and that all
Yeah,
comes
and
back to the commitment.
yeah, and I remember, like, it's funny now when we think about it, but during that time, like my husband is a contractor, I'm a real estate broker. Who had the possibility of making more money in that time frame? Realistically, I could turn more sales than he could, swing his hammer. Like, sure, he still had work, but somebody had to also like take our son to physio and drive
Hmm.
him to school and help with all of the meds and all of that stuff because that was still going on. That was an ongoing thing.
Hmm.
So, Brian took that role on. He would pack me a lunch. I would go to my office. At that time, I used to rent an office space within a plaza. It was just my own office place. So he would give me the lunch bag. I would go to work first thing in the morning. I would phone and check in, how's Thomas? How's this? How's that? And we would cheer every time I got another lead or another sale or there's a new listing coming. And,
It's huge.
and some nights I would get home at 2 a.m. just to get up and go out again in the
Huge.
morning. And my husband was getting up and going out first thing too. Like we
Yeah.
were all in it together. And I
Hmm.
think that's well, look at what you do. You're a heart-centered coach. You help your clients to realize their dreams. You're
Hmm.
cheering them on every step of the way,
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
right?
Yeah.
And you're doing
It's
that because that's what lights you up.
yeah, it does. Yeah, you're right. Like 100%. I like to see people win, and if I'm a little part of that journey, fantastic. But, I'm always that person who, if I have something, I want the other person to have the same thing. Whatever it is, it doesn't
Yeah.
matter. If I have a chocolate bar, I want you to have a chocolate bar too. Like it's just who I am. And so,
I want a chocolate bar.
uh, I have a little chocolate here. My daughter gave me. See, like,
Oh
still
my
from, there we
gosh, you
go.
got a
So
heart.
I got a heart sitting here
That's
right on my
nice.
desk.
That's
So,
so nice.
um, but
If you
yeah,
go back to, even if you think about, so like, I find this fast. Like, I personally, like when I sit down with somebody and they have given me, um, I guess, like when I talk to somebody one on one about their moonshots and we go through the system, I can't tell you of anything that's like, I feel so honored that they would share with me those goals and those
right,
aspirations and those parts of their life that maybe were sticky and ugly. Like,
right,
I mean, I've learned some, I'm like, wow, I can't believe that you overcame that. Like, everybody's story is so fascinating. It doesn't matter, you know, that we all had different, we all took different paths to get here today where we are.
right.
Everybody has a story. And I just feel like it's such an honor when somebody shares that with me and they let me become their cheerleader.
That's
And
huge.
man, when they win, I just like, that's what jacks me up. That's what makes me so excited. It's like, yes, of course you got it. Um, and it's crazy. Like, and then there's been times where I'm like, oh my gosh, did I just suggest that they do that? Like, that was really big. And that they did it. And they did it because, you know, they already knew they were going to do it, but they needed that permission piece.
Which is where you come in.
And I said, yeah, like I had a lady once I was helping, and she had a surgery that was an emergency piece. She didn't, know it was coming down the pipes, literally down the pipes. She ended up with a colostomy bag that was temporary. She was a
Mm-hmm.
young, attractive woman. I remember her saying like, "Oh my gosh, like I nearly died." And I'm like, "Well, get up, Buttercup, like it's time to go to work." And at that time, I think she was making, well, she wasn't making a lot of sales. And in a very short period of time, she, like, I'm gonna say that she made 50 times what she normally did in a year. And when it was time to get rid of the colostomy, she said, none of my customers even know that that was a thing for me. And I'm going to put something up. I'm going to tell them about it today. And she said, and I guess it would be more impactful with a picture. And I said, yeah, man, the picture's got to be there. And then I thought to myself, oh my gosh, did I just say that? But the outpouring of love and compassion and the connections and the growth of those relationships when she shared that info was just like, I was in tears when I was reading her thing because nobody knew where she'd been. I'd been honored enough to be on that journey with her
Right.
and watch her transform into this completely different human being. And those, when you make a big injection of money in a very short period of time, like that's life changing,
Right.
when used wisely, right?
Right.
There's
Right.
that
Right.
part too, right? But
Right.
but that's life changing. And so if you can create that desire and you can have the right people cheering you on, you can change your life, whatever that desire or goal is.
That's the hugest part is like, for any entrepreneurs listening to this right now and thinking, You know, what's the big deal with masterminds or coaches or groups or accountability things? That's one of the biggest things is, and you and I are both in a couple of groups together, you know, and that's how we met actually. And you know, with Geo's stuff, it's like you're in this vacuum a lot, and you can't operate in a vacuum. You have to be with other people who cheering you on, who are saying, "Listen, I get it," and all these other beautiful things that happen in a group atmosphere or in a buddy relationship type of thing. Like you are that guide for that person, and also channeling the universe. See, like that's why you're saying the stuff that you do, because
Oh yeah.
you know it's just like
I mean,
you just don't filter it out and you say it, and then you think, "Uh oh," but wait a minute, it was the right thing to say, right?
so yeah, yeah. She already knew she was going to put the picture up. She just needed validation,
I love it. Lorna is
right?
saying, I just want to get to some of the comments before they leave, or just want to make sure that we get to them here. Lorna says the commitment has to be there, and so does action. Taking action starts to show the how, but not until there's action. Any comments on that one, Carol-Anne?
Well,
Any?
I think, I think the action really is the how.
Mm.
It's the breaking down the baby steps to create the bigger steps, right? Like who can help you? What do you need to do? You know, and I've heard this, I've coached with I've had lots of different coaches in my life, and one of them always said, tiny hinges swing big
Swing big,
doors.
yeah.
You
You
know, and
know,
and so that's really it. Like, what do you do today that sets you up for success tomorrow
you
and the
know
next day and the next day?
what you just said. I'm going to write it down too because I'm writing this down. Here's what I came from that. You said that the action is the how,
Yeah.
right? And so I love that because I interpret that as, first of all, it's brilliant. And secondly, is like, so if the action is the how for anybody listening to this, and then you get stuck, let's say you do something and you're like, okay, now what? Now, how do I get there? Well, the answer is take action,
Take
right? It's
action.
always, that's
Yeah.
really what the how is.
And then
Take
that
this action.
becomes and then that becomes the trial and error part,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? You're
I
either
love that.
winning or not. And if you're not winning, then how do you get from A to B to C by going to D first? Right? Because sometimes we have to detour.
Yeah.
Sometimes we don't always get where we expect to go. And I think that's the other thing too, is that we're in such a society of instant now, give it to me
Yeah.
now.
Right.
Um, Faith without action is dead. Yeah, okay, I can relate to that. Where there's life, there's hope, right?
Can you read that one from Lorna? Can you see? You can obviously see
I
that one if you
remember
just.
doing a workshop breakout session for seniors on what you want. Happy because it worked, she said at least. Oh my goodness, she decided to focus on winning and she did. So,
Brilliant.
I love seniors actually. I really love seniors. We can learn so much from them. My dad taught us so much. Um, he had a desire. Well, he always thought he was a cowboy, even though he wasn't. He loved to sing. I grew up in a family where a Scottish family, we had the sing-alongs, at the end of a party and stuff, and everybody had their party piece, and my father loved to sing. But when he was 85, he decided he wanted to play the guitar. He wanted to learn. So all of his grandkids, we got together, we bought him a guitar for Christmas. He got a few lessons. He had a guide tape online. The kids, like his grandsons, all play guitar. They would come and they would sit with him and teach him how to do it. It was his birthday, and we had, guitar jams in the back till 3 a.m. with microphones and speakers. When my dad died 2.5 years after, he had 7 guitars. Not one,
Wow.
7. He spent every day learning to play the guitar. He would wear his cowboy hat when he played the guitar. He thought he was the cat's ass. And here's all these young grandkids of his, like these grandsons that are all like, Grandpa, no, try the pick like this. And so you can't erase those experiences and
Yeah.
memories,
Mm-hmm.
right? And we were all on Team Grandpa. Well, Jeepa. We used to call him Jeepa. We were all on Team Jeepa to learn to play the guitar,
That is so huge.
right? And
Yep.
so, I still have his guitars hanging in his room. Like, I walk past that thing and I'm like, I never want to, like, it's not something I think I'll ever play. But you don't know. But he played it and he loved it. And he didn't know how to read music, so he had to teach himself that. He found some guy online doing YouTube. So there you go, all you YouTubers, like, make it count. There's somebody out there that wants to hear your message. And he followed along. And then one of my aunts decided she wanted to play the guitar. And so we had like jam sessions here in the living room with, the golden oldie, my dad, and all of these young people all playing guitar.
Mm-hmm.
We would never have had those moments.
Right. Right. I love this. Uh, so Lorna, let me just see which Lorna says that she believes that action starts to unveil the how, and I think that we know the how and take action towards it. We're actually going in the wrong direction. I think that if we know the how and take action, I don't know if I'm on board with that last piece of it. If I think we know the how, oh, if we think we know the how, take action towards it, we're actually going in the wrong direction. I don't know. Sometimes it works out if you think you know the how. Sometimes it's not always wrong, but I do
No.
believe that the action unveils the how or the how not to, for
Well,
sure.
and I think go back to what we said about, the shadow work and forgetting where we've already won,
Yeah,
right? That is a big part of how do you make this work? Well, what worked before? You said it.
yeah,
Trial and error, right?
yeah.
So sure, maybe we are programmed in our head that, hey, this is how we do it. This is the only way we do it, so let's take action on that how. And maybe that's not the right formula for this particular
Right.
goal.
Yeah. Because it kind of reminds me of, how many times I've read, heard like billionaires or millionaires, multimillionaires say the path to us to success is trying to fail as fast as possible to figure out what is not going to work so we can
Yeah.
get to what works, right? And I've never forgotten that. I'm like, wow, that's brilliant. That's why I'm not afraid of failure, if you want to call it that. I mean, some people get messed up with the word failure and stuff. I'm just like, well, that's an experiment that didn't go the way I wanted it to go, right? That's all. And
Yep.
so it's like, okay, and then get it out of the way. But to your point, even if something worked one way and it's in a different environment, and you're like, okay, well, I'm just going to do this because this is how I did it before, how it worked before. That's not necessarily true in the new environment.
No.
And
And
so, but
and
but you
and
still try it,
and do
but you
you
still take
want it
action.
bad enough? Do you
Yeah,
want it bad enough? That
yeah,
comes back to one of those questions, right? And like I'm really good at, like, hey, if the kids if you came to me tomorrow and you said, Carol-Anne, I need you to make me, I don't know, 350 apple pies. Well, I'd do my damn best to make that happen for you because I want you to be successful on that mission and that goal. But if I had to make them for myself, I'm maybe not as excited about that,
so can you
right?
give us tips on anything to help someone get over that fear or to tap into the desire? Because I'm one of those people who believe that we need to tap into a desire that's already there and uncover it and unveil it, and then use that as the driving force. So can you give us some insight or maybe some tips on how to
Well,
get over?
I think if you use like if you look at a system like this where, where did you come from? Who are your ancestors? Like what, what is that? What are the stories of all the stories? And then what are your stories that you're telling yourself? Because that's really
Mm,
where the gift of the desire, unveiling the desire, if you will, that's where that is.
I see. Okay.
It's go back to, like, I mean, this is it's kind of crazy, but it's not crazy. Like, as a little girl, I loved playing with my dolls. I had like a million baby dolls. I always, had them around. I was like, one day I'm going to be a mother. I'm going to have 10 million kids. Like that was my mindset. I was that teenager that thought, oh yes, when I get married, I'll have six sets of twins, right? The universe is twisted sometimes. So my husband and I actually, we have one adopted son.
Hmm.
So, it wasn't for the desire of wanting that. We just weren't aligned with the how. So maybe that comes back to the question, right? Um, but where I was going with that was that we didn't give up. We pushed forward. I knew I wanted to be a mother, and I was prepared to investigate all the areas how. And ironically, what I feel when I'm helping people with their goals is this huge, proud mother energy when they
That's
succeed.
so cool. That is so
So
cool.
and if you talk to people that I have worked with in the past or that know me really well, and because I've done it, they've said, hey, send the email, ask people what it is about you that they loved most.
Exactly.
Mother energy, mother energy. You held space for me. You encouraged me. You didn't judge me. You unconditionally loved me. Like all of the things that I think of as a mother are the things that people see in me that
You
uh,
naturally do.
yeah, and it wasn't something you know, that came naturally to me.
It wasn't.
No, because my son's adopted. Like
But you always. But
the mother piece, like the actual becoming a mother,
oh, I
there
see
was
the
challenges
maternal
around
piece
that.
of it. The
The
maternal.
maternal piece of it,
Okay,
yeah.
but you
Yeah.
still had the desire to be a
Oh,
mother
always.
of
I
some
was
kind,
always the
which
one that
is
was doing the little mother, like, oh, I'll help the other little kids, or I'll,
right.
you know, even my own mom. I'm like, oh, I'll get the tea. I'll do I was always up for serving others, like being that mother figure, if you will, or how I
Yeah.
envisioned it to be.
Yeah.
And that's what I get. Like, that's the part that I love so much about helping people is that energy, that like proud mother, like, oh my gosh, you just got that. Like, that's amazing. Like, let's celebrate that.
And it's so true. Like I'm working with you, and I can tell that's who you are. Like when I share anything with you or just connect, you totally take over that in total space of like, I got you, right? And it's just that's who you naturally are. And so they're absolutely right. And then because I've only started working with you, so I can attest to that. That's exactly how I feel. You make everything good. It's like even if it was like a really bad day, like well, and you just somehow you be able to turn things around. I don't know how you do it, but it's just who you
Well,
are. It's
well, if
amazing.
somebody's not dying, then it's a good day, right?
Yeah, it's just yeah, you just I just love the way you think, and I think that just even if somebody didn't wasn't even into anything we're talking about here, and all they wanted was to get one little tip from this conversation, to me it would be just look at life as a gift every single moment, because what's the saying that everybody else wants a lot of goals or something else or wishes and a dying person only wants one, something
Yeah,
like that, right? We
yeah,
all want everything else and we look at all these other things, but a dying person wants one wish or has one goal or whatever it is. And you are you're not dying, but you're still looking at this every day as a gift and all the good from the things, which is
yeah.
incredible.
I
That's incredible energy.
you know, it's funny how, the circumstances of our life do lead us to places that we didn't expect to ever be,
Yeah.
right? I found myself, uh, I ended up volunteering with Bereaved Families of Ontario for like 8 years after my sister died. And I had just gone to see about, hey, is there a program for us to send her kids to there? Like let's sign them up. And this wise woman on the intake form said, well, maybe you could do with a little help, dear. And I was like, yeah, sure, maybe. And I ended
Wow.
up going into this class. It was a twelve week bereavement group, and it was for young adults who had lost either a sibling, a parent, or a grandparent. So it was at that time I was young. I was only, I think I was 26 when my sister died. So I was fairly young. I was, it was terrible time in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And this woman, through my tears, she said, "We can help you." And it turned out that the group for that 12 weeks started out with something like 20 people. And by the end of it, there was only myself and one other participant.
Really?
Only two of us made it. And at the end of it, they said, would you like to become a facilitator? And would you like to help us with people that have been where you were? And so I said, yeah, that sounds interesting. So I went through the training that they offered for the grief, facilitation. And I would sometimes do one-on-ones. And then I started doing these group sessions. And I think that's where, maybe my perspective on life or the joy of living, like you could see the transformation of the people. Week one, some of them couldn't even say their name or their loved one's name or talk about what had happened because they were that broken inside. Their heart was that, you know, just it was just sad and awful. And by week 12, I had to play like pass the pillow and tell them that they were on a timer uh, because they wouldn't shut
Yeah,
up.
there's so many stories to tell about it, right? Yeah.
And the things that happened in between were the things that I started to notice. And I think if we look for these clues, right? Success leaves clues or desire leaves clues. You were talking about that. So, the person that couldn't say their name, maybe by week 3 they said their name. By week 4, they came in and their shirt was ironed. It seems really crazy. Or their hair
I
was
get it.
combed, or
Mm-hmm.
or they brought a smoothie with them to class. Like, you could see the them going from the dark into the light, even though the light would never be as it was before.
Right.
They still could embrace that live every day like it's your best.
It's incredible. I love that, and I think that that's where we'll leave it here for now. And with that, that's a great way to just end the whole thing. Is like live every day as if it's your best. And yeah, I am super excited. Thank you for this, by the way. This has been a great precursor to the academy where we're gonna actually do some implementation. And I think we're gonna go
Yeah,
through some of the moonshot, right?
we are.
Yeah.
Yes, 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 yes.
So I'm
And
super
then you'll
excited.
have to tell me when they get hit all their moonshots. You'll be phoning me going, Carol-Anne.
I'm sure they'll be in touch with you too. Like you're gonna make a whole bunch of friends who would be like messaging you, and yeah. So there you go. So,
I love it.
Lorna
I
is
love that part of it.
can hardly wait for the academy call. Yeah. So it's coming
Yay!
up in you're in April, right?
I think April. Yeah.
Yeah, April. Because next week
Yeah.
we have, or next this couple weeks we have Sally Hogshead,
Oh my
and
gosh. Like that is such a gift for your academy people. Are you kidding? Like that's
right.
such a gift. Oh my goodness.
Everyone is a gift. Everyone there is that I bring in is a
Yeah.
gift in their own way, and I wouldn't be bringing you in or anybody in that I didn't truly love and work with on some level to the academy, because that's what it is for me. Is like, how do I again see, this is kind of the proof where what do I have that I could give with everybody else, because I built the relationships and I'm like, this is just too good to not share this person with these other people who are in the same place as I was, just like you were just saying, like, can you now help these people move to the place where you are? Because I know what it was like to struggle to get to the 100,000 mark and just be in the business, and how do I get all these things working? So
Oh.
It is.
Freedom.
It's a great gift, and I'm glad you're part of that gift. I can't wait for that. Is there anything else that I should have asked you that I did not ask you?
No, I think, I'm still stuck on that, how do I know what the desire is? Like, how do I uncover that? So I'm gonna have to put my head around that and see if I can come up with some, because I think that's the hardest piece for us to recognize.
It is. This is kind of the work I do in a different way. It's a different way of, I challenge people on that level where they want to make 100,000 or 10,000 a month. That's basically what I'm helping people do. But it's like, well, again, why do you want that? But who are the people you want to work with in order to get there? Because I don't want you to sacrifice your life going back to my dad's story, right? I don't want that for you. Like the money doesn't mean anything. We had a pretty cool growing up and entrepreneur and all that stuff, but my dad didn't have a life and all that stuff. So it's like, what is the desire for you? Because that's what's going to get you out of bed every morning to do the things that are difficult that you don't see the return on investment. However, you look at return on investment and what you're doing to market the business and all that. So I'm in the same boat as you, is trying to help them tap into the desire. Because for me, and you know this, this is my desire. This is it. Like, I just want to get up and
Yep.
talk and help you. And I don't care how long it takes. I don't care if I'm getting paid for it. Don't care. This is what I desire to do. I will do it till the day I die. That's it.
Yeah.
So I will do everything in my power to get up out of bed every day to do it. So I'm
And
blessed. I feel very blessed that I found my purpose, my desire.
yeah.
And I do
And
remember what it was like not having it.
yeah. And for me, selfishly, I love it when I get those calls and I get to
Right.
feel like and I get to cheer them on. And I go, I told you. And really
Right.
I can't even go to, like, I have worked with some of the most magnificent people in the universe that I already know before they know that their mission is really, really big. And
See,
then as
that
I
that's
as I
huge.
watch as I watch it, as I watch them unfold it, it's like, wow, yep, that didn't take that long.
And here's the thing, Caroline, is like, you're not just a cheerleader, right? So when people challenge you on it, like, this is a gift for you. And anybody listening to this, work with her because she's amazing. Because if you have somebody in your corner like this who's not only just cheering you on, but knows that they've already got the crystal ball, they've already seen it. So you're not just saying it for the sake of saying it. Like, you're there to say, look, I know you're there, but you're helping that person by warming them throughout the darkest parts, giving them that motherly love, and you believe in them, and you have the gift of pulling the things out of them, not just saying, well, you've paid me, so of course you can do it. That's not what this is. Like,
No,
you have this true thing where you can look at somebody and go, I got, this is what your thing is. Now let's get you there. And
it
then you guide them through it and support them all the way through it.
oh yeah, and it's
So you
so
should
funny.
deserve to
So,
take that credit.
I have this young kid that I'm mentoring right now, and he was one of my A+ clients' son who decided he wanted to get into real estate. And I'm like, well, he's got to come and work with me because, like, he's got to come and work at the same company. If I'm losing those clients, I have to stay involved with him somehow. And he is such a little firecracker. He in his first few months of selling real estate, he won a trip to go to California with a whole bunch of top realtors that had been in the business for years. And so he got to go on this crazy trip because of his sales performance. And he's young and didn't know the first thing about real estate. I actually sold him a condo when he was 19, and that's what got his mind going. And he's like, wow, yeah, I want to do this. Well, now he's the condo king in our office. Like, he's
Wow.
just incredible.
Wow.
And he's going to own a soccer team one day, and I know he is.
Wow.
That's one of his moonshot goals. I can see him sitting on the sideline cheering on his team.
Incredible. Carol-Anne, you are a just an incredible positive person. Eddie just said that as well. Thank you for being here, by the way, Eddie, and everyone else, Collie, Lorna, and whoever I did not see there. I think there's a couple of other Facebook users that I don't see your name, but I want to give props to you anyway. Thank you for being here live. Hashtag live if you're here live, or hashtag replay if you're watching the replay and still want to put in a comment or a question. We'll come back to this and answer anything you want to. I really appreciate you being here, Carol-Anne, and we will see you in, I'll see you a little bit sooner than that, but in the academy, we'll see you in April. And you're in my Facebook group anyway, aren't you? Or are you not?
I believe I might be. If not, send me an invite. I'm coming
Yeah,
in.
perfect. So either way, Carol-Anne is in the Facebook. Why don't I do this? I forgot to do that all the way through this whole show, but I'm going to put the Facebook group right in the comments, and I'll send
Yes.
you an invite as well into that group. Thanks, Carol-Anne. Have yourself
Perfect.
an amazing, amazing rest of your week. It's a pleasure.
You too.
Will do. Bye, everyone.
Bye.